The city slept under a quiet sky. The air held the smell of rain on stone and dust on old roofs. In a small studio above a bakery lived a painter named Eli. He worked at night. People brought him their fears and asked for pictures to make those fears smaller. Eli mixed soft colors, a warm shore for a sailor, a bright window for a child, a green path for a lost woman. The city said he painted dreams. Eli said he only listened and then showed what he heard. One night, facing a large white canvas, Eli felt a deep weariness. The last months had taken his sleep. He tried to paint, but the brush moved like a slow clock. He lay down on the old couch and fell into a deep sleep. He woke and did not wake. He stood on the same wooden floor, but the canvas shone like a door. Color moved across it like wind over water. The frame hummed. Eli put his hand on the edge and felt a pulse. The surface of the canvas opened like a thin curtain. He felt a pull and walked forward, passing through. The world on the other side began in white, but shapes grew. A horizon, a sky, and a field of flowing paint. A path led to a tall gate made of air and color. Above the gate hung a small symbol like an eye. The gate held 6 marks in a circle: wind, sand, glass, water, ash, light. Eli knew these words instantly, feeling them in his hands as if they were familiar brushes. He touched the first mark. The gate opened with a sigh. Islands hung in the pale blue air, connected by thin rope bridges. Strong air moved across the spaces, singing a high, clean note. A dark storm made of torn canvas burst up like a whale, chasing paper birds. The storm ate paint from the edge of an island. Eli ran to a wheel set in the rock and turned it. The wind dropped into a deep curve like a wave. The birds found a curve and slid along it. The storm fell into the hollow and was folded into a strong rope tied to a far island. The wind mark glowed. A path opened to the second mark. The world of sand waited. Dunes rolled under a warm, low light. Every grain shone with secret color. In the distance stood pillars, each holding a glass bowl full of sand that did not fall. A lizard made of broken hourglasses tracked him. When Eli reached the pillars, the lizard slid into his path. The bowls trembled. The sand began to pour. The lizard curled around the last full bowl and squeezed, cracking the glass. Eli climbed a pillar and caught the bowl. The sand inside swirled and spelled mercy. He pressed his hand to the crack, closing his eyes. He thought of the people who brought him fears. The crack slowed. The bowl held. He set it back, gently. The lizard turned, slid into the dune, and left a trail the wind erased. The sandmark glowed. Eli moved on. The third world was glass. It looked like a city of shining streets and walls. Shapes of people made of fog walked behind the mirrors, never stepping out. Eli saw his reflection in a broad sheet. His tired face looked back, and behind it, a second face, his younger self, fierce and clear. The younger Eli touched the glass from inside. Eli touched from outside. The glass did not open. He reached a tower of glass panels, each holding a frozen moment, a woman smiling, a boy falling and rising. A thin crack grew across the lowest panel. Eli knelt and pressed the two sides together. The glass fought him. Remembering the storm rope, he took a small knife and scored a new line to guide the crack toward the edge where there was strength. The crack followed the line and stopped. The fog people grew more distinct, resting their hands against the inner face. The glass mark glowed. The path widened. The fourth world was water. A deep blue went down and down. Eli climbed downward through cold layers. Far below, a slow water wheel turned, its 20 blades holding pictures of people he knew from the city. The wheel turned, washing the faces clean. A dark current slid across the wheel, pushing it out of True. Eli swam closer and set his feet on the hub. He pushed the bent blade back into line, holding it until his muscles burned. He found a mass of dead reeds jammed in a side channel. Eli pried the reeds loose. The current softened. The wheel found a smooth rhythm. The faces on the blades opened their eyes for a breath, sleeping well at last. The watermark glowed. The fifth world was ash. The air was gray. Charred trees stood like dark bones. Everything held a hush. In the middle lay a circle of black stone with a small pile of white dust. Eli touched the dust. Out of it rose a shape made of thin smoke, the size of a man, reaching toward him in a plea. Eli held his color-stained hands steady and did not step back. The smoke shape stopped. A faint glow began under the stone, spreading into rings. Between the rings, small signs appeared, a path from dark to less dark, a way to build a picture from loss. The smoke shape looked at the rings, pressed its hand to its chest, and settled back into dust. The ash world could carry weight again. The ash mark glowed. Only one mark remained. Eli returned to the gate. The last mark was light. He touched it, and the world shifted to a high hall. The walls were white. At the far end, a column held a cradle with a small, bright thing hidden under a soft veil. He walked past 6 tall windows. Each showed a world he had just left, and each world was whole. He reached the cradle and lifted the veil. Inside lay his first brush, lost years ago. The handle had a dent where his thumb had rested. The bristles held a clear color he had never used. A plaque said a painter must choose between control and care. Control dries paint. Care lets paint move. He held the brush. The hall grew brighter. Above the cradle hung a wide circle with 6 sockets. 5 held the elements. The last socket was the shape of the brush. He lifted the brush and set the handle into the empty place. It fit with a soft click. The circle turned. The light ran down into the stones. A door opened in the air. He saw his studio, the couch waiting, the bakery sending up a warm smell. He stepped through. The canvas still shone, showing a path of color he knew how to follow. He found an old box at the back of a shelf. Inside lay the same first brush. On the handle was a new mark, a small circle with 6 full sockets. He went to the canvas and began to paint. He worked in simple steps, keeping his strokes honest. He did not chase control. He followed care. The picture grew into a shore where wind made paths without breaking water. It grew into a city where glass could hold a face without stealing it. It grew into a field where ash could teach the ground to bear seeds. Days and nights passed. People came with worries. Eli noticed he no longer carried their weight. He did not try to bind a storm or trap a river. He found the right line in each fear and showed where it could go to become less sharp. He used wind that had learned to hold, sand that had learned to pause, and glass that had learned to reveal without harm. One evening, he looked at the door of the canvas. It no longer pulsed. It did not need to. The worlds were part of his hands now. He closed his eyes and listened to the city. He smiled and opened his eyes. Across the room, a small paper bird, flown from the wind world, perched on a frame. He held out his finger. The bird stepped on. He set it on the windowsill. The rain touched the glass, and the bird watched. He did not try to keep it. The next morning, a new painting had begun in the night without his hand. It showed a hall with a cradle and a circle, 6 windows and 6 worlds. A small signature had written itself in thin paint. It was his own name, and also not. It felt like a promise. Time moved in a clean line. Eli walked with it. He painted the world as he wished it to be. The painter learned to choose care over control. The city learned to dream with its eyes open.